Okay, I think I'm running live now, straight into the group. uh, Hi guys, my name's Jamin, and I'm going to be sharing a story about a long fun run that I did 4 weeks ago. Um, I ran 90 kilometres from Lovina down to Seminyak in an effort to raise some money for the Bali Children Foundation as a way for me to give back to Bali in a special and unique way, and in a way that just made sense to me. So to kind of paint the story and tell the story and paint the picture, in March 16 earlier this year, I stepped into the Melbourne airport, and when I got there, the woman said, "Are you going to Bali?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "You know, when you come back to Australia, you're going to have to self-isolate and quarantine for 14 days. I said, "I did not know that." And she said, "You still want to go?" I said, "Absolutely. And you probably won't be seeing me anytime soon." And so with that, I had no idea how literally I meant when I wasn't going to be coming back to Australia anytime soon, because that week was when the COVID-19 pandemic hit the world. And so as I arrived, it was my first time ever being in Bali. And as I'm in the streets of Canggu, after day one, day two, day three, I'm just seeing the streets get emptier and emptier as all the tourists were beginning to leave. Now, because I was here to see my partner and work on my business with Jen, what happened was Jen's from Germany, I was from Australia. We weren't welcome in each other's countries, so it made the decision to stay here in Bali really easy. And so from there, we're like, well, why don't we recruit a few other people who are choosing to stay, and we can form a little villa family, and we can go and find a nice place to stay whilst we're here and riding this wave of the pandemic. And so that's exactly what we did. So we recruited a small number of people, and we had 6 of us in total, and we went and found a beautiful villa to stay. Now, with that, as I was starting to experience some of the magic of Bali, I went to a local room just near where I was staying in Pereranan, and had an amazing meal. And the woman who served me, she come over and she said, "How was your meal?" And I said, "It was great." And she said, "Oh, thank you for staying here. Thank you for being here. You stay, you stay." And I said, "Yeah, no, of course. Like it's our pleasure." And then so that was like one little touch point. And then 2 days later, I was at a different varung in Canggu, and the woman who served me, she said, "Thank you for being here. You stay, you stay." And I said, "Yeah, no, of course." And from that moment, like something started to click. Obviously, I noticed that a lot of the shops were closing, and a lot of the cafes were either closing or getting emptier and emptier. And I just started to recognize, like, wow, with the number of tourists that have left Bali, the economic impact, and therefore the impact on locals on so many different levels of the different socio-demographics here in Bali, they're going to be affected. And being in isolation and wearing the masks and not going out as much, I was kind of really questioning how I would be able to contribute to the people here, because there I was staying in a beautiful villa and being so well taken care of, and yet not feeling like I could really make a difference. And so something that was going on behind the scenes, separate to all of this, was back in November last year, I'd made a commitment to doing my first ever 90-kilometre ultra marathon, which was going to be the Mont Blanc ultra marathon in France, in the French Alps. And I'd been training quite consistently for that. And I channeled and pulled upon a bit of wisdom that I had from years earlier, which was the future that we're living into shapes how we show up now. So the future we're living into shapes how we show up now. And so with that in mind, I knew that if I just, with the running world cancelling events and having all these different events postponed, that if I didn't have something to look forward to or to train for, my motivation, my drive, my health and fitness was going to suffer. And so I decided that no matter where in the world I was going to fulfill on a 90-kilometre run on the 28th of June. And fortunately, I was like, well, if I'm going to be here in Bali, then this is where it'll happen. And with that, I shared that with my villa mates that evening and said, "Hey guys, I'm going to need some support to run this 90-kilometre run. If we're still here in Bali, I think that I'd love to turn this into a fundraiser as a way to contribute back to the community." And I said, "Would you be on board for that?" And graciously and very naively, not having ever crewed before or been part of this kind of fundraiser, they said yes. And so as the days turned to weeks and the weeks turned to months, sure enough, we were there in the first week of June, and we're in our 4th villa by this stage. and we sat down for dinner. I said, "Hey guys, I think we're going to be here on the 28th of June. Let's are you still on board for this? Let's pull this together." And to their credit, they said yes. So with that, I was like, right, well, we need an organisation to raise money for. And so I sent out a text message to my friend Rory. I said, who should we fundraise money for, which would be a great charity? He said, mate, you want to get onto the Bali Children Foundation. So he instantly connected me to the founder and CEO, Margaret. And then he said, you also want to partner with the Bali Hope Challenge. And so then he connected me with the founder and CEO, Tom, of Bali Hope Challenge. Next thing, I'm on these Zoom calls 3 weeks out from this run with Margaret, and she's going, Jamin, have you ever ran an ultra before? I'm like, no. She's like, have you ever fundraised in this way before? I'm like, no. She's like, so have you done much running around like in Bali before? I was like I've done a fair bit around Canggu, but otherwise not really. She's like, right, you've got a bit of work to do. We're going to team up here and make sure that you've got everything you need to make this a success. And I'm like, oh, godsend. Thank you, Margaret. Jumped on the call with Tom, and then he goes, okay, so Margaret said that you haven't done an ultra marathon before, and you haven't done the route that you're looking to do here. This is how it's going to work. And so he said, what route are you looking at? And I'm like, Lovina to Seminyak. He's like, perfect. That's the run that we do every year with the Bali Hope 84-kilometre ultra challenge. Perfect. He's like, I'm going to send you some Strava data from some friends who did the run last year, and I'm going to get you in contact with a few athletes who can then share with you specifically how they prepared and how their run went. So with the support of Tom and Margaret, not only did they give me that insight and a few things to do, they also connected me with a video with Kamang, who is the Bali Hope videographer. So the next day, Kamang turns up, he interviews me and creates an amazing promo video. Margaret gets this fundraising page up, so then I was able to start promoting it for people to be able to contribute. And sure enough, within a week, I'd already raised $3,000 for Bali Children Foundation just by putting one post up on Facebook. I thought, this has got great momentum. This is really exciting. So anyhow, let's fast forward 3 weeks. There we were. It was the 27th of June, and we all drove up as a convoy to Lovina, where we would stay the night in preparation for the ultramarathon, which I was going to be starting at 3:30 a.m. And at this stage, we had the arrangement that I had my four villa mates. We had a local man, a Tok, and his wife and his 5-year-old daughter who was going to be driving and being a support crew. And we also had Kamang and Ryan, who were going to be the videographers for the event. And fortunately, we all arrived. We all stayed in the same place. And so that evening, we were able to all check in, and I was able to go, crew, you ready to go? Kamang, ready to go? Tok, ready to go? And everyone was just like, it's game time. So we went to bed at about 10:30. Alarm come along in the blink of an eye at about 2 a.m. We're up and then getting ready to take off at 3:30 a.m. And that was kind of where the adventure really began. I was there in Lovina, and just by the water. It was dark. There was no traffic. I had Zoom up, and I was in a really amazing position where I had friends and family who were able to tune in on Zoom and kind of follow the journey along. So I'd done a lot of preparation, and my coach had said, "You've done the work, and this is going to be it's going to be a really special day, and I want you to enjoy it." And so that was the intention that I set out with. So starting in Lovina, and if anyone's done the trek from Lovina to Seminyak, you'll know that the first 20 kilometres is quite a steep incline. So that's what I had to move into first. So with a shuffle and a walk, for 3 hours, I walked through the darkness until I got to the lakes halfway, just on the north side of Bali there. And then that was when the sun rose. As soon as the sun started to rise, that just gave me such a kick and just reminded me that my job was really to be there and to enjoy the entire thing. So I took a moment there where I sort of had my arms stretched out and just took in the majesty of the lakes and the sunrise and just got connected to how awesome it was what we were all collectively doing. It was like, this is awesome. And from that place, again, I just set out with the intention to enjoy the rest of the run. So 30 kilometres come by, I was feeling great, 40 kilometres, feeling great, 50, even 50, feeling great. Got to 56 kilometres, that was the furthest I ever ran before this. And I was feeling great. Got to the 60 kilometre mark, and that was when a bit of wisdom from a guy named DJ, who's an ultra athlete who'd ran the run a couple of times before. He said, this race, it doesn't really begin until the 60 kilometre mark. And my God, he was right. I got to 60 kilometres and I'd move, my pace had slowed down considerably, and in my head I'm just like, oh my goodness, I've still got 30 kilometers to go. This is going to be an absolute challenge. And fortunately, I'd lined up a couple of pacers to join me with 30 kilometers to go. A guy named Lou and Mika, who had become training buddies in the lead up, and they were able to pace me. But even though they were pacing me and they were there for a bit of motivation, I was hurting. 65 hurting, 70 kilometers really hurting. At the 70 kilometers, I took a break, and as I sat down, I was just like, this is really, really hard. It's kind of like hands in my head type. Just going, wow. I'm moving at 8 minutes per kilometre and I've got 20 kilometres to go. That's 160 minutes. That's 2 hours and 40 minutes at least until I get to the finish. This is going to be a long afternoon. Fortunately, my villa mate Pia, it's actually just behind me right there. She dropped down onto her heels and just like met me at eye level. She said, Jamin, you're doing great. You've done the work. We've got this. And I just took a moment just to connect in and look around at all the people who were with me. And I was like, wow, this isn't a me thing. This is a team effort. And yeah, we've got this. Let's go. So from there, 70 to 75, I continued to shuffle. I wish I could have said I took off and started moving a lot faster, but I was just moving pretty steady. I got to the 75 kilometre mark, and then I remember what my dietitian and coach had said. They said, you know what the magic key here is? Caffeine and flat Coca-Cola. That'll give you a kick when you're really struggling. Fortunately, I had that prepared. So I said, Pia, hey, can you hand me the Coke and caffeine, the Coke and coffee? And she hands it to me, and I take it. And I stood up, and then I kept running. And from there, I moved from like 8-minute kilometers down to 5.5-minute kilometers. I was literally passing my paces. And from there, I just continued to move and move. I got to the 10 kilometers. I didn't even sit down for a break. Just had a bit more Coke and caffeine and coconut water. I said, guys, let's keep going. I moved on to the 5 kilometers. Here I was halfway between Canggu and Seminyak. And then I remember being on Zoom, and I was just connected to my friends and family and all these people who've been following the journey across the last 12 hours. Plus I looked around and I could see, the support crew at top and my pacers were all there just in this moving as this one convoy towards the finish of this 90-kilometre run. And that last 5 kilometres was one of the most memorable 5 kilometres of my entire life, like one of the most memorable 30 minutes of my entire life. I just continued to put one foot in front of the other, moving faster and faster, until there I was with just half a kilometre to go, 500 metres, and I was running down the road towards my villa, and I just had all my friends and family in my ears cheering me on. I had Scooter in front, Scooter behind, and just felt so safe and so contained. It was just one of the most enlivening experiences of my life until I said, guys, that's 90. At which point I turn around to celebrate, feeling just so elated. And I was only there with 3 people. I said, where is everybody? And they said, Jamin, you smoked them. You ran away from them. I was like, that wasn't the plan. I wanted to be there to celebrate with everybody. But in this moment, I'm like, where is everyone? Anyway, they arrived shortly after, maybe sort of 15, 20 minutes later, because they got a little bit lost. But in that moment, I was then tuning into Zoom and just present to the celebration of, my friends and family and everyone who was just cheering and being there for support. And I said to Tom, hey, Tom, where's the fundraising at? And he said, it's going pretty good. I said, no, like, what's the number? And he says, it's 4,800. Now, the bit I hadn't shared with you is that the campaign, I'd called it 9K for 90K. And so my target was $9,000. And I was like, again, just feeling this kind of like, this isn't quite what I was expecting. I thought I was going to have more momentum than this. And then from there, I was like, you know what? You've just ran 90Ks, dude. 4,800, that's a lot of money. You've done great. Just take it easy. Enjoy some pizza and some calorie entitlement for a couple of days. So from there, we celebrated that evening. Now, I wish I could say that my recovery was a breeze. It wasn't. For 3 days, I could hardly walk. But what I was most curious about was how was the fundraising going to go? And fortunately, Kamang, he'd been there for 5 hours of the 12 hours capturing amazing footage. And he created a beautiful media video after movie that I could send out to just to really acknowledge what the run was and then who it was there to support. And fortunately, that got some traction. And so day on day, I just started to see the fundraising start to rise and rise until Margaret messaged me. She said, hey, Jamin, an anonymous donor is going to be willing to top it up. If you hit 7,500, she'll top up the rest. And so as we just edged closer and closer to 7,500, I remember waking up on a Thursday morning and it was at 7,300. I'm like, whoa, just 200 to go. I remember on that day, I was just checking the fundraising page, like literally every 10 minutes, just to see if we could click that 7,500. And by that afternoon, we had Margaret message me and said, "Hey, should we click this and tell the person to donate?" I said, "Yeah, let's do it." By that evening, I'd raised $9,400, and we kept it open for another 4 days and finished having raised $10,000 for the Bali Children Foundation, which is going to serve the education and ensure that there's great healthy food distribution for kids and families in the northern parts of Bali. And so here I am 4 weeks later, and that was a really special time for me being here in Bali, and a very meaningful way for me to bring something that was going to be a very selfish pursuit of just running 90 kilometres as my own physical challenge, and then being able to extend that for something much, much bigger than myself and an exciting future to live into. So I hope this has been some form of inspiration, or just at least getting connected to new possibilities. Thanks for being here, and thanks for listening.